Thank you very much, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, for honoring our request for this exclusive interview.
Thank you.
According to Mark Twain, author, always do right. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. Your reappointment as the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies shows that you are good at what you do. How does your reappointment make you feel?
Just like any other person that apply for a job and the job was given to you to perform, I was happy, highly elated for my appointment the first instance in 2019. I came with a vision to do things right. I came with a vision to improve on what I met on ground. I came with a vision to revolutionize the institutions, the institutes of reports mandated to enhance the capacity of the legislature in Nigeria and other democratic institutions in the country. I mobilized my staff, my management staff, with the support of the Governing Council under the 9th Assembly to achieve all my stated, goals. So that from just the 4 departments, we had 9 departments. From 9 departments, we had 11 departments. From just an institute that run master's program of less than 60 students enrollments in a year to an institute that could boast of 120 enrollments in a year. From just an institute that has just about probably 10 staff that have gone for international training, to an institute that has all its staff on international training. From just an institute that restricted perhaps its services relatively to the center, to an institute that could boast of having trained about 22 House of Assemblies members in the country. So just an institute that was able to introduce a lot of other initiatives like the parliamentary lecture series, like internship for young drafters in the area of legal drafting, like parading a radio station of its own, like having a center for security analysis on its own, to an institute that ensures that the capacity of the aides to National Assembly members are enhanced. In other words, within 3 years of my stewardship, I was able to take more than 3,000 aides of National Assembly.
Wonderful.
So, having done all this, one should expect a return in terms of reward system. I wasn't in doubt was the support of my staff, because these are staff that, when I came on board, they were aggrieved on the way their career progression was being treated. And within 6 months, most of them that were not promoted for 7 years, I promoted them. Within 6 months, some of them that were on contract, I confirmed them. Within 6 months, some of them that could not go on international training, I sent them on international training. All my drivers were trained nationally, all the drivers. Staff that could not get research allowance, that were getting research allowance of 100,000, I doubled it to 200,000. Staff that could not get hazard allowance, they are not getting hazard allowance for the first time. So they were happy with me. But whether people outside there will see what I've done as something that was being given, whether I deserve a second
continuation
term, is a different ball game. But I'm happy with the leadership then, the Senate President and the Speaker, regardless of the fact that some tend to see me or tag me as a little bit to the right, not to the left. They saw my worth as a professional, as somebody that has done so much. They saw my productivity. They attested to my inputs, my accomplishments. And 2 months to the end of my first time, I got my appointment renewed. What can I say to God than to thank God for that? I think I was delighted, I was happy with that. Not of the reappointment per se, but on the fact that people outside there, they recognize my worth, my inputs, and they believe, no, this is the kind of person we need on the saddle of leadership here, and we want him to continue. So I think, normal for a sane person, I think I was happy, I was delighted. And I thank them for that gesture, because they had option not to do it. And I thank God for my staff, for the support they gave me, because their voice was being heard outside there. They attested to what I'm doing here, which to me was a collective, services we all rendered to the nation. So I think I was happy, I was delighted, and the gratitude will go to Almighty God for that, to the leadership of National Assembly, to the Senate President then, to the Speaker, to our Governing Council, but most importantly to God. I think I was extremely happy.
Thank God. According to research by Arabella Star magazine, you've served Nigeria in various capacities, apart from being a former minister. You've also served in different national commissions and committees, as well as several capacities on the international front. Can you tell us more about your political journey so far?
You have said it all. I was a teacher in the university. And while I was in the university, I happened to be directors in so many centers. And to the glory of God, I was appointed Minister of National Planning in 2014 by President Goodluck Jonathan. And in that capacity, I was able to represent Nigeria in so many international fora, United Nations, IMF, World Bank. Nationally, I discharged my responsibility, and I partook actively in ensuring that government succeeds, and the government succeeded. I will not forget my travel after I left government, up to the FCC, up to detention, up to litigation in court. But even at then, the same government recognized my worth again and appointed me as the Director General of this institute. And since 2019, that I was appointed DG here, I've discharged my responsibility to this nation, again in so many capacities. I renounce my political activism because the law, the act here does not allow that. I've been truly professional, even though the stigma is still on me of being leaning to one party. But people that, any sane individual that follow the trajectory here and what we do here, we know that we have been professional in what we do. we are compass. We set the pace, regardless of party. We tell you the way it is. We guide them, especially the legislature. When we observe that the parties are not guiding their utterances, we convene political communication summit to call them to, modicums on how to behave, how to speak, to give them rules of engagement. When we see the trends in Africa, especially in the areas of military reinsurgence, we try to draw the attention of our politicians to it too, and they should be wary of the event in Africa. We do come up with policy briefs to guide both the executive and the legislature. We sensitize the medias on how to report political events. We are into so many things. But the point I can make in summary is the fact that I've paid my due, and I still pay my due duly as a political animal, as a technocrat, as a teacher, and if future's responsibilities beckon to me to do more in any capacity, as long as it's about nation building, I'll be willing to do that.
That's wonderful.
It's something I enjoy doing, and I'm prepared to do it better.
Thank you, Professor. During the public presentation of a research report on inclusive practices of the political parties in Nigeria, organized by the Institute in conjunction with Westminster Foundation for Democracy, WFD, you identified fake news, ethnic and religious sentiments as threats to the country's democracy. How has your institution fared in promoting political inclusion and deepening democracy in the country?
I think you have answered the question. You said during my engagement with the WFD on the issue of inclusiveness. Before we restricted our mandate to training, to technical assistance, to research. But in the last 4 years, we have scaled it up to advocacy. Advocacy on local government autonomy, judicial autonomy, parliamentary autonomy. We have joined the forays of advocacy on the issue of youth and women inclusiveness in governance. And it's based on the belief that democracy is incomplete without mass participation. And if the system we run is a system that tends to alienate or seclude certain class of people in governance, then that is not democracy. If our institutes are about democratic practice, democratic study, democratic training, it's just in order for us to join the advocacy for more women inclusion in governance, for more women inclusion in lawmaking, for youth and people with vulnerability inclusions in governance. We have not seen more of that in the last 5 years. That thing has come to stay. The notion, the patriarchal belief that no, women should not be there at the forefront. They should not lead. Whereas other African countries are making waves. They are getting their women to play active role in governance. Oh, the largest democracy in Africa is leaving women behind. So if no institution is doing it in terms of advocacy, in terms of speaking to issues, in terms of leading the conversation, we believe we should do it, and that's what we are doing. So in the course of 2023 election, we partnered with WFD in observing the election with the focus on identifying how many women partook in that election, how many men or youth, and how many people with challenge people are there. And we came out with reports In terms of casting votes, yes, they are the majority. But in terms of standing for election, they are a minority. That is not the best way to go as a people. So democracy in Nigeria is still not being practiced the way it should be. Let me use that word. Let me be mild with my word. Because a larger numbers of people, that is the women, are being secluded or excluded rather from governance. Substantial numbers of youth who constitute the majority are being excluded in governance. The physically challenged people are not being reckoned with. So I think it's something we believe we should sustain, the advocacy we should sustain. And we believe we need to guide the lawmaker in the areas of technical interventions, in the areas of legislation, in the areas of ensuring that we get bills that tend to cater for the needs of these people in a way that we're able to deepen democracy in this country and democratic practices. So we're not just talking the talk, we're working towards the talk. And that is why we convoke the conference we convoked again last month, or last 2 months. And that is why we are taking it further to even convey all the CSO and NGO that has something to do with the issue of women inclusion in politics by next month. And that is why we are putting our report before the desk of the lawmakers. Where Net Assembly failed in the areas of, getting legal backing to support women inclusion in politics, this Net Assembly will not fail. We are ready to lead the advocacy. We are ready to lead the vanguard. And we are not just talking. We want to see to our talk and ensure that people that constitute 49%, as they claimed, but I believe it's more than 49% of our population, are well taken care of. Let their voice be heard in governance. Having 30 female senators, that's not the best way to go. Having just 15 female members in the House of Rep, that is not democracy. We should have more than that. Then we try to identify what are the issues, what are the problems, what are the challenges. Why are women not getting it right? The conference we convoke or convene was able to address all this. And by the time we get a report down to the principles of National Assembly, I think something positive, in advancing the interests of Nigerian women will come out of it. So it's something we are committed to, and it's something people identify our institute, and we are committed to achieving this in the next 1 or 2 years, hopefully.
That's beautiful. How does NILDS collaborate with the National Assembly and other relevant stakeholders to strengthen legislative capacity and effectiveness in Nigeria?
NILDS is an agency of the National Assembly. NILDS is a baby of National Assembly. And our primary role is to serve National Assembly legislatures, especially the parliamentary staff, the parliamentarians, to provide technical assistance. We draft the motion, we draft the bills for them, we conduct researches for them. Most of the laws being made are born out of research. We are the intellectual wing of National Assembly. We are the intellectual arm of National Assembly. We are the research institution of National Assembly. So practically what you do on a daily basis is at this, render services to stakeholders in the National Assembly and state assemblies and every other, democratic institution in the country. So, and the support from them has been very productive. We got our funding from National Assembly votes. Our Governing Council are the principal of National Assembly, the Senate President and the Speaker, with 6 members from House of Reps, 6 members from Senate. with the CNA as a member, with the Assembly Service Commission chairman as a member. So it has been, there's no detachments. We are on to their neck, and they are on to our neck too. It's a symbiotic relationship. We are incomplete without National Assembly, and they are incomplete without us. So we are together as a body. It's like a whole body. It's a system. You know, we are just a subsystem of National Assembly. And I think I need to say this. The leadership has been so much, you know, wonderful in terms of their cooperation and assistance to our needs. And that is why today we are meeting us at the permanent set of needs. Everything has to go back to leadership. The 7th Assembly, 8th Assembly, the 9th Assembly, and in the last 3 months of this leadership too, it has been very smooth, it has been very wonderful, and we have really done so much in the last 3 months. So if not for their support, we would not be where we are today in terms of mileage, in terms of milestone, and in terms of accomplishment. So we are an agency of the National Assembly.
At a leadership conference to promote inclusive political party practices organized by the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, you urged the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to appoint a youth minister. What has the National Institute for Legislative Studies done in enhancing the youth development in Nigeria?
He said, I heard the President at a forum about 2 weeks ago, and just yesterday, youth minister were announced. For the first time, we have 2 ministers of youth. What again do you want me to say again? I clamor, I pray, yes. I advise, I beg, and when I was making that plea, the leader of the youth leader of the APC was seated, and here we are now. We have not just the Minister of Youth. I even specifically mentioned that it should be below 50, and now we have a youth minister that are below 40. So that's to say that my advocacy has been, you know, yielded to by Mr. President. So I think what I need to do here is just to commend Mr. President for being sensitive to the yearnings of Nigerian youth, for being a listening president, and for adhering to their clamor. So over the years, I've told you, in the last 5 years, we have been at the forefront of advocating for inclusion. Inclusions of the downtrodden, the lower class, the lower sex. The lower sex are women, the lower sex are youth, the lower sex are people that are vulnerable. We have been on it. We have had series of engagements with donor agencies, with CSO, with government agency, with female parliamentarians, with youth. We have been at even when we have the SARS, the protests,
the NSAS
rather, we took a position supporting the NSAS rather, that what the youth have done, yes, was the right thing to have done. We have taken the bull by the horn on issue of the youth emancipation. So when I talk of effectiveness on what we have been doing on the issue of youth involvement in politics or governance, I think we have done our bit, and I'm happy we have a president that is more youth-friendly. So it's just for us to assess, for you to assess us, whether we have done it right or not. So I think this is the period of evaluation. We have done our
your plea.
You understand?
Yielded good fruit.
Yielded all, and
yes.
As I said, at this moment, it's for me to just thank Mr. President. And I'm happy again that the people in question, one of them, the main minister is from my state. It's like a daughter to me. So I think, what else can we say? That to thank God and to thank Mr. President for that. If that can be sustained better for us. We want to see more youth occupying more, parastatals, more ministries, more departments, because they constitute the majority. As at the time, most of the governors today were appointed when they were youth. If we don't respect the youth, we don't listen to them, it's like we are trying, to suppress our future. We don't have future without youth. Our children, the younger ones, they are tomorrow. So for us to have a future rather, we need to bring up the youth. How do you bring them up? You can only bring them up by through mentorship. Let them start practicing it. Give them this instrument to work with. You understand? If you could have a president that ruled this country when he was 29 or 31, what stopped you and I, or you and some other younger ones, to be governor, to be deputy governor, to be senator? So we need more youth inclusion in politics and governance. Not at the point of voting alone, but at the point of being party leaders, at the point of being community leader, at the point of being state leader, and at the point of being leaders at the center. So now we have gotten about 8 youth ministers. We still need more. So we are counting.
That's wonderful. Thanking God and the president, we also have to thank you, because a lot of people tend to be self-centered when it comes to political issues, but you've made yourself available. You've interceded. You pleaded with the president to make sure that youths get into certain positions in his administration. Thank you very much for that. Legislative transparency and accountability are very critical for a healthy democracy. What measures or initiative does the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies undertake to promote these principles within the Nigerian legislative system?
You see, the issue of accountability and transparency on the side of legislature is very, very germane. It's something we have been emphasizing. And let me commend the 8th Assembly. If there's one assembly that really has done so much in the areas of making their book available for Nigeria, I think it was the 8th Assembly. And the 9th Assembly to sustain it. I could recall under 8th Assembly, there was this clamor by Nigerians, CSO, that they want to know how much senators and House of Rep were earning. And that time, the Senator Sani Mosani of Kaduna State championed, the advocacy. I think impressed on the leadership that time, and they were able to make known available what they are earning to Nigeria, and that was a lot of tension. And I could recall again the same 8th Assembly. There was this thing we introduced some needs that time, Open House Week, whereas people were allowed to come into National Assembly, engage with senators and House of Rep members. Nothing is hidden. That is the height of transparency. We were to repeat the same Open House Week in the 9th Assembly, except for COVID, pandemic, the NSAS protests, and the insecurity that time. But I should let you know that it was in our work plan to have a repeat of that Open House. And I want to assure you that this 10th Assembly too, we are going to still conduct Open House Week. For people to even engage, come into National Assembly premises, engage with the lawmakers, ask questions. I'm giving you this trend for you to know that unlike before, nothing is no longer hidden. The National Assembly, especially the parliamentarians, are now open to public scrutiny, to public criticism. They tend to now, respect the FOI bills. You can ask questions and you shall be given. You can inquire for certain things, you will make it available. That is why today everybody knows how much they are earning. They know how much their votes. They know how much is the bill provisions, the budget provision for them. They know how much cars they want to buy. Because why make it a secret affair without people knowing? But out of transparency, in their own transparency culture and habits, they try to make things open. Today, proceedings in House of Rep and Senate is now being covered by the press, except when it comes to sensitive matter that they now go into closed session or executive session. That is openness. That is transparency. The same National Assembly today has approved or funded or established a radio station to engage with Nigerian people under NILDS. To me, that is openness and transparency. So, I have not seen the last 4 or 5 years, of even more than 6, 7 years, the tendency for National Assembly leadership to do anything in secrecy. They tend to be open, they tend to be transparent in their operations. And that is why gentlemen of the press today, they cannot critique National Assembly parliamentarians of trying to put anything under the carpets for Nigeria not to know. So what we are doing here is to, impress on them to do more, to improve on it. Improve on it by engaging the press more frequently than they are doing now. So that a lot of misperception, misinformation in the public space there will be corrected and will be adequately addressed. So I think, to go back to your question, the effectiveness in transparency, what you call parliamentary transparency, I think has been there over the years, in recent time, and the only thing we need to do is to sustain it. And one of the methods of sustaining it is this kind of leeway they even give our institute to engage with you, to go beyond training, to go beyond capacity building, to enter the terrain of advocacy, to speak for them, to put before you certain data, information that you need to know. Because without their directive or directions, that's nothing I can do. That's what we could do. So I think we are getting it better than it used to be in the 5th, 6th Assembly. Democracy is fast evolving, and we're making tremendous progress, in our culture of openness, transparency, as related to lawmaking and oversight.
As the man of the people, what would you say are your proudest achievements?
My proudest achievement as an individual?
As an individual,
yes. My achievement is that I've impacted on so many people's lives, especially in the areas of human capital development. My best achievement is to the extent to which anytime I go out there, I see students that I've tutored, and they're always proud of to say, "Oh, Oga, we're your students." To me, that's the best thing I've done for humanity, and that's the best thing I still want to do. So what I'm doing here is a continuation of that, impacting, developing people's human capital, capacity enhancements, impacting people's life, adding value to their life. So the best I've done as an individual in the last 50-something years of my being on this earth is that I've impacted positively. I've developed human capital. I've developed people's capacity. I've produced a lot of students there that today, in their own respective way, they are leaders in their various, endeavors. To me, that's my consolation. And I still hope to do more.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your time.
It's a pleasure.